Peter Kingsley is perhaps the greatest classicist of modern times, certainly in recent times. And he focuses primarily on the great classical period, the time of Parmenides, Herodotus, Empedocles, the father of modern physics. He was the guy that came up with the idea of the atom, which had no revisions to it until Einstein got curious about the movement of pollen on water and proved his Empedocles' seed idea that there was something called an atom. And then also Pythagoras. And these men were just the founding fathers, really, of Western civilization. And the other work that Peter Kingsley's involved in is Carl Jung. And Jung was this brilliant psychotherapist who, in a sense, was beginning to have a look at the errors that came with the bastardization of the understanding of Logos by Plato and Aristotle. And I got very influenced by Peter Kingsley for a period of time when I was living in Southern California, in taking care of the Soil Healing Foundation on its property during COVID. And one day a little bird came down into the garden. It was a dark-eyed junco. And the scientific name of dark-eyed junco is Junco hymelis. And junco means reed or grass, and hymelis means winter flowering. And if you take the metaphor of our times, which is a time of great acceleration of change, as being a sort of akin to Shakespeare's line, "Now is the winter of our discontent," what you begin to recognize is that something has to shift in the way we produce fuel on the planet and the way we do it, so that the homeostasis, the balance of the ecosystem, isn't out of balance, which is what fossil fuels, a fossil fuel dependent economy is bringing us. It's bringing us global warming, and there's also all this obsession with the carbon footprint. But what I realized when this bird arrived was the flowering of the culture that's going to happen in our time is going to be around hydrogen. And the Greeks had a word that came from a seer mentality. Seer means seeing into the nature of things. And they had a word which was phlogiston, and phlogiston was disproven. But what was disproven in the 18th century, 19th century, was that you can't burn anything without oxygen. That was proven. But what the Greeks meant, and I sort of came upon this understanding intuitively, was that phlogiston had nothing to do with the burning of hydrogen and oxygen, nor the burning of hydrogen of itself without oxygen, which doesn't happen, but about the fusion of nuclear protons and overcoming the strong force in the subatomic structure. And that's what happens in stars, where there's enough heat and gravity to support such incredible forces that can force the melding together of two protons into tritium, deuterium, and helium. And E equals mc squared, mass is times the speed of light squared, gives us energy. And so that's with the immense energy from the sun. And it came upon me that this little bird arrived, and I've watched birds all my life. And in the Greek meaning of the word daemon, which the Christians have taken the word demon from, which was a total misunderstanding of the word. Daemon meant a visitor from the realm of spirit towards the edification, that comes in support of the edification and the enlightenment of of man. And Philip J. Dick, I think his name is, he's a novelist. He's written novels about how everyone has a daemon, and it's an animal spirit that guides us. Well, this little bird arrived, and I've watched birds all my life, and it started to move in such a way that its feet, it did this little dance, and the movement of the feet got faster and faster and faster. And there is nothing in my study of nature that could convince me that this was a natural behavior. So it did this like movement with its feet, much like African dancers that dance below the knee. They've got these competitions, and then it shot up to the sky with a speed that was incredible. And what I understood from that was that like it was sort of a messenger in spirit, that came to me in deep meditation as I was sitting in the garden just quietly. And it was the most unusual bird I've ever seen in my life, and I've watched birds all my life. And what I drew from the experience was that we are in the process of mastering nuclear fusion, but we won't do that. Like the Chinese have got temperatures in their nuclear fusion artificial reactors 100 million degrees higher than the sun, but they haven't cracked hydrogen fusion. And to do that, you have to play with gravity. And it came to me in a series of intuitive pathways of looking at the problem, that will be solved by gyroscopic forces that help to handle these fundamental rigors of replicating the sheer force of gravity in the sun. And I was really passionate about this because I had some insights also. There's a mathematician in Britain called CTC Wall, or Terry Wall. He's a family friend of ours, and he did some work, and he was a brilliant mathematician, and he did work in far beyond my capacity of understanding. But I had this intuitive understanding that his work in topography and exponential growth of numbers was close to cracking the mathematics around these incredibly difficult equations related to gravity, which we think are going to be solved by string theory. But and string theory is a fascinating field, but I really have this sense that the work will focus on a breakthrough. His mathematics that he did in that topological realm will lead to a breakthrough in our understanding of gravitational force fields. And that's what's coming. That's what's incumbent upon us. And I think it's going to be similar to like this movement towards what I call duction, where we're working in alignment with the forces of nature, as opposed to using fossil fuels, which corrupt the atmosphere we live in and overheat it, born of our own folly. But duction means to work in line with what's right. It's from this sense of, that's the sense I get with ductile. Ductile is something we associate with metals, but duction is this movement that aligns with the needs of the homeostasis of the current organisms that dominate the earth. And phlogiston is about either renewable energy that uses the forces of the sun that creates the wind, the tides, and the gravity that we see with the moon, or it uses nuclear fusion. And just as in the sort of 150 years ago, there was a prediction by the mathematicians, as there are predictions of horror and pain that are going to come from global warming right now, that there would be 2 or 3 stories of horseshit in London because there was so much traffic in that way. I think we will have a major breakthrough, just as they had the combustion energy and combustion engine and the advent of Ford and motor cars. We will see a move in the direction of renewable energy that isn't causing global warming and horrific pollution. And that was an insight that came from a daemon that came into this moment in my life, and it was so inspiring. But then I realized that the ego of the scientific establishment often is very frightened of such mystical experiences. And it's ironic because the whole, which is what Kingsley's work is all about, the whole focus of Jung and his friendship with physicists and the whole focus of the Parmenides, who was the father of logic, was that there's a mystical aspect to nature, Mother Nature revealing her secrets.